That's good. Okay. Somebody else is coming in. Right. Now. Yes, everything's a little bit slower and the image isn't so good. It's not my usual. It's not my usual. I don't know what's going on there. Okay, right. Well, we did our best for live streaming. Now then, let's go back to where we are. Zoom. Got it. Oh, there's Nicole. Wonderful. Okay, lovely. All right, well, let's begin, everybody. Like I said, I'm sorry, it's not my usual computer. And it's a bit of a miracle that we're here at all. So we'll have to do our best. So I'll just read the prayer because I haven't been able to get it onto this computer. All right, and then we'll go from there. Ribbon olamim v'adonai adonim, Avraham v'slichot, modim anachnu lefanecha, Adonai Eloheinu v'le'avotenu, b'kidah b'shtachavaya, shekaravtanu l'toratcha u'le'avodotcha v'dat HaKodesh, v'natata lanu chelek b'sodot rotecha kedosha, ma anu u'mei chayenu, asher asita imanu chesed gadol kazeh, al ken anachnu mapilim tachnunenu lefanecha, shetimchol v'tislach l'kol chatotenu v'avanotenu, Valyu avanotenu mavdilim beinenu leveinecha, v'chen yiratzon milfanecha, Adonai Eloheinu v'le'avotenu, shetochonenet levaveinu liratcha u'levatcha, v'takshiv oznecha lidreinu eile, v'tiftach levaveinu harel b'sodot rotecha, v'yeh limudenu zeh nachat ruach, lifnei kisei kvodecha karech nichoach, v'tatzil aleinu, or makor nishmatenu b'chol b'chinatenu, shitnotzatzu nitzotzot avodecha kedoshim, Asher al-yadam galita dvecha ela ba'olam, u'zchutam, u'zchut avotam, u'zchut toratam u'taminutam u'kedushatam, od lanu leval nikasher b'divrim elu, u'bezchutam tireinenu b'ma she'anu lomdim, k'ma ma'anaim zmirot Yisrael, gal einai v'abita nifla'ot b'toratecha, ki Adonai ten chochma mipiv dat u'tvuna, yu l'ratzoni mefi, v'gon libi lefanecha, Adonai tzuri v'goali. Amen. Ken ye ratzon. Great. Now then, here, right, and I need to share my screen, and we're going to start off with, a second, here. That's the bit we want. Fantastic. Okay, can you see that okay? All right. I want to just start off with where we are in the story of the coming out of Egypt, okay? So here we are, one more plague to go, all right? And God says to Moses, I'm going to bring one more plague upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt, and afterwards he's going to let you go. And when he lets you out, he will completely drive you out, okay? And then we get the request that God says, speak to the children of Israel, and they should all borrow each person from his friend and each woman from her friend, silver vessels and golden vessels. And so they received these vessels from the Egyptians. And then Moses said, and so says the Lord, at the dividing point of the night, I will go out into the midst of Egypt, and every firstborn in the land of Egypt will die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne to the firstborn of the slave woman who's behind the millstones, and every firstborn animal. And there'll be a great cry throughout the entire land of Egypt, such as there's never been and such as there never will be again. Okay. All right. And they will come and they will plead, go, go. They will, all those servants of yours will come down to me and prostrate themselves to me, go out. And all the people who are at your feet, and afterwards I'll go out. Okay. And Moses left Pharaoh with burning anger. Okay. So here we are, the children of Israel know they're going out. They know that's going to be one more plague, and then Pharaoh is going to let them go and send them away, and they are going to take some vessels with them. Okay. So the question remained in my mind, and I wanted to carry on there, forgot, 1 second. I want to go on one more bit, which is chapter 12, the very next chapter. And here we have, Vayom Hashem el Moshe, ve'el Aaron, be'eretz Mitzrayim lemor. And then God says to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, HaChodesh hazeh lechem Rosh Chodeshim. This month for you shall be the beginning of all months. Rishon hu lachem lechodshei hashana. He's the first month of all the months of the year. And I said to myself, well, this is really interesting. What's one thing got to do with the other? I mean, yes, I understand that the children of Israel are going out of Egypt and then following this declaration about the months, they would each have to take a lamb, and then they're going to slaughter it on the 14th day of the month, and they're going to have the Korban Pesach, and on that night they're going to go out of Egypt when God is going to slay the firstborn. All right. But what has the commandment, HaChodesh hazeh lechem Rosh Chodeshim, you know, suddenly you have to have a whole direction about the calendar? I couldn't understand it. You know, all things that they had to think about. Suddenly they have to think about, okay, this is going to be the calendar, this is going to be, you know, the month of, well, afterwards, looking back, you can see the sense in it, because it's the moment that we became a nation in a way, that we left Egypt. But this was my question. This was the question that I came to this shiur with. What does HaChodesh hazeh lechem Rosh Chodeshim have to do with the coming out of Egypt? And what does it tell us, okay, in our lives now? So, what I wanted to do was it's just, like I say, it's not my usual computer, so I'm not the world's best at this one. I want to share, I've got here, this one there, this one here. There was a few places where I looked to find answers to my question. All right. The first place I looked was the Haggadah. Okay, so this is a scan of my actual Haggadah. Okay, because Yachol mi Rosh Chodesh, okay, is the paragraph where we actually discuss the coming out of the children of Israel from this aspect of Rosh HaChodesh hazeh lechem Rosh Chodeshim. This month will be for you the beginning of the months.
Yedida?
So I'm going to make it nice. Yeah.
Okay, you said you're going to make it big, because at the moment I just have like I can't see the whole page at the moment. I don't know what you can see.
No, I can't see the whole page. I can just see the beginning. Then I'll have to sort of like
no,
move
because
it down.
here you got, yeah, but we're still on the page where it says on your where it says USB drive F on the.
Oh, gosh,
like
okay,
you can see,
right.
you can't see the document at the moment.
Oh, thank you so much for telling me. Okay, I'll try again. There. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, that's better.
All right, now it's it. Thank you.
No, thank you for telling me. Yeah, great. Okay, so this is a scan from my Haggadah. Okay, and I've got a Haggadah, a very nice one, which has got some commentary, both of Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ashlag and Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag underneath. All right, so this is what he says here. HaChodesh hazeh lechem Rosh Chodeshim. This month should be for you for the beginning of the months. Inyan chidush, something which is new. Chodesh, okay, the word month is also obviously the word Hadash, something new. All right? So I thought that's very interesting. Inyan Chidush, he's telling them something new. It means something which our minds, in a regular way, do not necessarily expect to be. All right? Something that's a surprise, something that's new, something that we don't know about before. All right? This is what is termed a chidush, something new. What we need to ask the question, what was this new thing that Moses is being told by God, to the extent it's now called Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of everything new. Okay? So in the way of serving God, in the true way, even though that a person is born with his own selfish love, and in his desire to receive for himself alone, this comes about because God's plan in creation is to give goodness to the created beings. Okay? In other words, because God's desire to give goodness to the created beings is the reason for the creation, therefore, every single created being has a desire within him to receive all God's goodness. That's what he wants to receive. So that's the origin of why we have within ourselves our will to receive for ourselves alone. All of us, all created beings, okay? We have that desire inbuilt within us as an absolute consequence of God's purpose in creation. And then the human being is given a special task, which is that we then need to transform that natural desire to receive for ourselves alone into something new. That's the newness, okay? What's the newness? That instead of receiving, we're going to say, I only want to be receiving if by my receiving, I'm actually giving. So to give is not natural in our nature. I mean, we all know how to give if we're going to get something, all right? We're not daft, okay? We all know how to give in order to get. That's not what he means. He means giving unconditionally, giving in a way which is hefech mitiv'o, the opposite of our nature, okay? And this is not easy. Shekol avodato tzricha liot rak l'torat Hashem. So that instead of our working for our own self-benefit, which is our natural way, our work now needs to be for the sake of God. Not for our own selves. Now this is a chidush gadol. That we should even imagine that we can work in a way which is totally for the sake of giving. This is a chidush gadol. This is something new. This is a remarkable news. Okay. Ad kedei kach, it's so new, it's so opposite to what we would expect. Shamu Chazal, that the sages said in the Talmud, Sukkah, if it weren't for the fact that the Holy Blessed One helps him, he would not be able to handle it. He would not be able to overcome his will to receive for himself alone. And it was like this, that when the people of Israel were enslaved to the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, Zeo mitzat hateva. This is, in a way, our natural enslavement, because the Pharaoh king of Egypt is not something that happened 3,000 years ago. It's something that happens every day now. We get enslaved to our will to receive for ourselves alone. Pharaoh is the ultimate stereotype, archetype, if you like, okay, which is also within us. We have within us the ultimate of the will to receive for ourselves alone. Because the will to receive for ourselves alone is not just in the physical, that we want to have this nice food and that nice building, nice flat and this nice car or whatever, okay? That's actually is a very small part of our will to receive for ourselves alone. We also have an emotional will to receive for ourselves alone. We want to receive appreciation. We want to receive honor. We want people to like us, okay? We have an intellectual will to receive for ourselves alone, which is the huge desire for technology, whether or not it's ethical or not. That's a human's very big desire of the human being. But ultimately, the biggest desire of all is the Pharaoh, is the will to receive for spirituality, the will to receive God for ourselves alone. And that's exactly what the Pharaoh is. He says, who is God that I should listen to his voice? Mi Hashem asher yishma b'kolo. Okay? So that's how Am Yisrael, Yashar El, the soul within us, okay, it becomes enslaved to the Pharaoh within us. And this, in a way, is natural. Mitzad teva. It's a natural problem, okay? Because the Pharaoh within us is part of our natural makeup. And to get out of that servitude, Katuv Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am the Lord your God. Who brings you out of the land of Egypt, the land of Meitzarim, the land of this narrow place of only wanting to receive ourselves alone. So the antidote to the servitude of Pharaoh is, I am the Lord your God who brings you out of the land of Egypt. Okay, and it says in the Haggadah, Ani velo shaliach, ani velo malach, ani hu velo acher. I am God. It is I, not a shaliach. I am the one who's taking you out. Only I, none other. So who can take us out of our natural servitude is only God. וזה נקרא ראש החידושים, Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of all months, the beginning of redemption, the beginning, why Nisan, okay, which is the month of redemption, the month when God himself takes us out, is the beginning of all the months, the cycle of serving God, okay, which starts off with Nisan. And Rosh v'hatchala v'shoresh l'kol hachidushim, the beginning and root of all the new idea, then something new that we can actually serve God from the aspect of givers, of giving unconditionally, of giving from faith, instead of being passive receivers, active givers instead of passive receivers. So we don't want to be enslaved to Pharaoh anymore, okay? As the sages have said, let every day be in your eyes like something new. Okay? Every day we need to come to this new understanding, this new comprehension. Okay, as it says, which I am commanding you this day. What is the new? That we can serve God with faith and not be receivers. So the first beginning in this new way of being in the world, of being as givers unconditionally to each other and to God, okay, begins with Yetziat Mitzrayim, the coming out of Egypt. And just like every single thing needs preparation, likewise, the coming out of Egypt also needed preparation. And what was this preparation? Is that they actually got to the 49th level of uncleanness. Until the king, the supreme king of kings, revealed himself to them and redeemed them. As the holy Ari says. Now, why do we have to get to the 49th level of uncleanness? What does that mean? What does it mean in our lives now? Okay. What it means is we have to have awareness of our own receiving for ourselves alone, our own egoism, our own inability to give unconditionally. Now, when you tell somebody we need to give unconditionally, okay, he says, oh, you learn it in the Zohar, you learn it in the work of Rabbi Ashlag, and he thinks to himself, oh, well, okay, that's fine, I can do that, I can come into affinity of form with the Creator, and then I'll be able to receive everything he wants to give me for the sake of giving, and I'll be fine, okay? And it seems like a very reasonable and understandable thing to do, because we learn that two spiritual entities can only come together when they share the same desire. And since God's desire is entirely to be giving, if I'm not sharing that desire and I want to be receiving, I'm going to separate from him. So in order to come together to God, I actually have to become a giver like God. So the first time that we're told, okay, in order to come close to God, you have to be giving like God is, just as he is merciful, you be merciful, just as he is gracious, you be gracious. And you read it and you hear it and you learn it in the shiur and you say, yeah, that's fine, that's no problem, it sounds very good. But what actually happens is we have to really feel the reality of where we really are, okay? And then we get a dose of reality, okay? It's not just learning it and then straight away we can do it. What usually happens is we learn it, it feels wonderful, we get the idea, we want to do it, and then we have to discover the reality. And this is what he says here. To actually realize the 49th level of Tum'ah, okay, okay, then we actually have to be able to see our true situation, okay, and say, Tachlis, is this really where I am? Can I really just, give unconditionally, all right? And in order to see our true situation, we actually need to labor in Torah and service of God. You want to time it, just to see the truth. We have to put a lot of work in, okay? In fact, there's a very beautiful commentary of Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag on the P'ticha l'Chochmat Kabbalah, in which he says, he brings up a question, and he says, what is the light that we gain from the Torah? Because the Torah has a light which brings us back to the good way. What precisely is that light? And the Baal Sulam answers, and he says, the light is that we're able to see the truth about where we really are, and that the will to receive for ourselves alone is bad for us. That's the light that we gain from Torah. To actually be able to see the truth, how we really are enslaved to Pharaoh. Why is that important to be able to see it? Because the answer is, Ein or beli kli, we cannot receive the light of redemption unless we actually desire redemption, okay? All right, and so that we're able to pray for redemption in a proper way. And if our prayer is just, oh dear God, it'd be very nice to get a bit of redemption here and to be a bit redeemed, okay, it doesn't do it, okay? It's got to be able to pray from the depths of our heart, okay, to really like, what it says, kiot libo, from the walls of our heart, from the depths of our heart, and that we can only really get to that true prayer when we see the truth of how enslaved to Pharaoh we really are. So according to how much depth there is to our desire for redemption, how much we lack redemption, then we'll be able to understand the greatness of the redemption that follows. So according to the greatness of the lack, the greatness of the realization of the exile, we're in our spiritual exile, that is shiur simchat geula. That is the same measure precisely as the joy of redemption. Okay. We can't actually come to the feeling of exile unless we do the work of Torah and service and prayer, okay? Only then we can really see where we are. As it's written in Koheles, that the light shines out brighter when it comes from the dark. In other words, it's impossible to feel the dark unless there has been some light. Otherwise, again, we don't know what the dark really is. Okay, so the light we get from the Torah and the service of God and the prayers actually accentuates the darkness, all right? And without that light of Torah, okay, we cannot feel the depth of the darkness. Without the work of Torah, we can't discover how far away we really are from redemption and how far away we are in exile. And unless we can feel that, we can't really pray properly. Okay? Because in general, because in general, the lacks that we feel in our lives or that we complain about to our friends and neighbors are actually lacks that we feel sorry about concerning our will to receive for ourselves alone. These are not usually lacks on how to serve God. So to find those lacks out, we actually need to do the work in Torah and mitzvot as much as we can. So this is the reason why this commandment, this month should be to you for the beginning of the month. This idea, this chidush, that we need to be serving God for the sake of giving, absolutely is the first mitzvah. And this commandment comes on the serving the sacrificing the Pesach, okay, all right, and that is, shall you eat it? But chipazon, what is the chipazon about? The haste, Pesach hu Hashem, it is a Pesach for God. What is the chipazon? The chipazon was that the children of Israel had to go down to the 49th level of Tum'ah, or go down to 49th level and see that Tum'ah and be horrified by it and be upset by it and be longing for redemption so much, okay, that they were willing to sacrifice the idol, which was the lamb, okay, and paint it on the doorposts of the house as a symbol of faith. They were willing to do everything. They were willing to do everything to let go of their will to receive for themselves alone and come to Geula. What's Geula? The freedom to be able to serve God through faith, the connection with the letter Aleph. The difference between Galut, Gola, and Geula is only one letter. Gola, which is exile, is Gimel Vav Lamed Hey. Geula is Gimel Aleph Vav Lamed Hey. What's the difference? The difference is the connection with the Aleph, the one of the world, the creator of the world, and that is through giving, through faith, through the service of, through serving him through faith. So this I felt was a very lovely, very beautiful piece which connects the Chodesh Hazeh, Rosh Chodeshim, to Pesach, and why these two mitzvahs come together. And that was the first place that I looked. Okay. Now, I looked in a few other places. Let me just see, where were they? Okay. This is another article, which was written by Baruch Shalom Ashlag, again on the same idea. It's a slightly different perspective, okay? So let's have a look and see what he says here. Inyan Kiddush HaChodesh, the sanctification of the month. HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodeshim. This month should be to you for the beginning of the months. Piresh Rashi. Rashi explains, okay, it's in the Perush of Rashi on this verse. Nit kasher Moshe amolad levana. Moses had difficulty with this idea of consecrating the moon, of discovering Kiddush HaLevana, of consecrating the beginning of the month, okay, Molad, Kasher Moshe Molad HaLevana, on the beginning of the moon, in what measure does the moon have to appear that she will be appropriate Kadesh, to sanctify the Rosh Chodesh? God showed him the moon with his finger, as it was in the firmament, and told him, when it's like that, that's when you do Kiddush HaLevana. So why was it that Moses had so much difficulty with this? You know, all these incredible, complicated mitzvot of the whole Torah. There were two that God had to show him directly. One was the menorah. Moses had difficulty envisaging what that was and how to do it. And the other one was this one, Kiddush HaLevana. All the others he managed fine. So what was difficult about it? Why was it so hard? Hamafarshim sha'alu, the commentators asked, Mahu shaya kashe kukach leMoshe inyan Kiddush HaLevana. What was so difficult for Moses, the issue of Kiddush HaLevana? What does it mean that he had to show him with his finger? What does this word etzba, God's finger, why did he have to show him with his finger? Why? What was the word finger here got to do with this? So that's Rabbi Bolsholm Ashlig's father, Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ashlag, said, Shinyan halavana maramez ala malchut. The moon is the symbol for the Malchut. The Malchut is the Shekhinah, the Knesset Yisrael, all the souls of Israel together. Shinyanohu, whose issue is the way to function, the way to work for us is Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shemayim, is taking upon ourselves the yoke of the governance of God. What does that mean? It means that instead of being governed by our own impulses, okay, our own wills to receive ourselves alone, instead of just allowing them to take over, we have to let them go and let God's Torah and mitzvot govern what we do in our thoughts and in our speech and in our actions. And this was difficult for Moses. How can you tell this to the children of Israel? They should take upon themselves the yoke of the kingdom of heaven when they're feeling concealment. And logic demands שאילו היה בא לעם ישראל שקבלו עליהם בחינת מלכות שמיים, עם איזה גילוי אלוהות, אז יש מקום לדבר עליהם. Logic demands that if you come to the children of Israel, okay, they should take upon themselves the yoke of the governance of heaven with some, you know,
You're frozen.
Yeah, you're frozen by me as well.
Frozen.
Frozen in Canada as well. I hope we'll get her back.
You're on mute. Yedida, you're on mute. You can't hear me. Yedida? Oh, okay.
Did I lose everybody?
Yeah, you
Yes,
froze
yes.
about, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes ago.
Oh, did I? Golly. I didn't notice I was talking away like anything. I'm awfully sorry. I've got this problem with the thing. Hopefully on Sunday they're going to fix it. So let's just hope for the best. Okay, and carry on. So I'll go back to where we were. Hopefully people will rejoin. Okay, very good. I'm sorry about that, everyone. It's a real nuisance. So where am I? Share. Okay. So it was just, were you there for the beginning of this talk about Moses and the Shekhinah?
Yes, we got the beginning of that page.
Okay, great. All right. So let's go on from here then. So the Shekhinah is the hint about the moon is the hint about the Shekhinah, which means taking upon ourselves the yoke of the governance of heaven, which means actually choosing to listen to Torah and mitzvot in our thoughts and in our actions and in our speech, rather than our own melech silvasakein, our own will to receive for ourselves alone, okay, which is much more natural to us. And this was very difficult for Moses. How is he going to tell the children of Israel to take upon themselves the yoke of the governance of heaven when they can't see God at all. Like the time of the new moon is the time when the Shekhinah is not receiving any light from God at all, because the moon only appears like this little thumbnail bit because it's not receiving the light of God. Okay, so if you look at the moon's cycle of receiving the light of God and not receiving the light of God, okay, it starts with not receiving the light of God, when we have to go completely in faith because God's light is hidden from us. And then gradually, as the month goes by, as we do the Torah and mitzvot, then we begin to receive the light of God, okay? And it goes in this circular fashion. So the problem that Moses is having here, he says, how can I tell the children of Israel to take upon ourselves the yoke of the kingdom of heaven when they're not receiving any light at all? Okay? And one would think, you would think that if they would tell them to take upon themselves the yoke of the kingdom of heaven when the light is actually shining for them, then there's a place to talk to them about it. But how can you tell me, how does God tell him to sanctify the way of the Malchut, the way of the serving God out of faith, when they're not receiving anything at all? But the meaning of this issue is that a person needs to accept upon himself the yoke of the kingdom of heaven on the lowest possible aspect. And to say about it, אצלי, אפילו המצב הזה, שאין עוד אפשרות שיש שפלות יותר גדולה, even when I'm in the lowest possible spiritual state, when all I can see is the negative aspect of myself, and I can't see any good at myself whatsoever, all right, then even at that place, where the only way he can move forwards now is to go forth in faith, when he's got no support from his experience, from his feeling, he feels right down, okay? So he can't support his faith from any inner feeling of happiness. Nevertheless, that's the place he has to go in faith. The actual feeling is as if you're suspended between heaven and earth, between good and bad, between, wanting to connect with God and feeling really down, feeling really you're going to fall down, okay? At that point, the only way to connect with God is through faith. And what he needs to say at this point is that God has sent us this very lowly state where we feel so bad with ourselves and so lowly. Is that God is because God himself wants that. That I would take upon myself the yoke of the kingdom of heaven in this very, very, from this place where there is no knowledge or experience, where God's light is not shining. And just like the new moon, when all you could see is this tiny, 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 tiny thumbnail, all right? And when there's hardly any light at all, ואני מקבל על עצמי, משום שאני מאמין למעלה מהדעת, שמצב שבו אני נמצא עכשיו, זה בא לי מצוות השם. And I take this upon myself. I'm going to try and serve God in faith, even in this situation that I find myself in. And that also comes from God. God wants that I should see within me this most lowly state, okay, that I can be in the world. And this is absolute corresponding to what we learned just now, that the children of Israel had to reach the 49th level of Tum'ah, the 49th level of uncleanness, okay? in order to have the vessel for redemption. In the same way, we also have to come to this lowest possible state, okay, in order that we can have a true prayer to God, that we want him to help us and that we want to come to him through faith. Nevertheless, I need to say that I believe in God in whatever way he presents himself to me. Okay, whatever way, whatever state I find myself in. That's what he means taking upon the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. Like taking upon this yoke, no matter where I am, if I can manage and if I can't manage. Okay? This is when, you just do it without any conditions at all. זאת אומרת שאדם לא אומר לקדוש ברוך הוא, אם תיתן לי הרגשה טובה, שאני ארגיש שמלא כל העז כבודו, אני מוכן להאמין. We don't say, if you give me a good feeling, that I can feel your presence, that I can feel that the whole world is filled with your glory, okay, then I'm prepared to believe in you. All right? No, on the contrary, we need to believe in God, okay, even when we can't feel anything. Whereas, כשאין שום דעת ושום הרגשה רוחניות, אינני מסוגל לקבל עליי עול מלכות שמיים ושמור תורה ומצוות. Not to say that when I don't have good feelings of spirituality, that I'm not prepared to do Torah mitzvot, but to take on the role of Torah mitzvot lelo t'naim. וזה שנתקשה משה, this is what Moses had this awful difficulty with. איך הוא יכול לבוא לעם ישראל עם בחינות שפלות כזאת? How can he come to the people of Israel from this very difficult place, from this very lowly place, from this place of such, where it seems like, where am I going from here? Okay? And this is why God had to show him with his finger. It's this actually is the best place to do the Kiddush Halavana, to sanctify the Shekhinah, because it's from this place actually that we're truly giving, truly an affinity of form with God. The aspect of the Shekhinah, the moon, where it's just newborn, you can't see any goodness in it. It's by accepting upon ourselves the yoke of the kingdom of heaven in our lowest possible states, when we can't find any reason, when we can't feel anything. We have to say that state also comes from God. Then on this state, he will see afterwards, on this basis, what the sages said. Rabbi Elazar said, in the future, God is going to make a dance with the righteous. And he's sitting amongst them, in Garden of Eden. And every single one will point with his finger. He said on that day, this is our God. We waited for him and he will save us. This is God that we waited for him. We will rejoice and be glad in his salvation. And I think also this idea that God shows Moses the Kiddush Levana when they to sanctify the Shekhinah, from the place of complete emunah, complete faith. Okay, it's from that the children of Israel went. They followed after God in a land which was not sown. They went out in complete faith, and then they got to the Kriyat Yam Suf, and that it wasn't just a finger. They said they saw the hand of God completely. All right. In Egypt, it was a finger, and on the shores of the Red Sea was the hand of God. Okay, and you can actually connect these two events. You can connect the HaChodesh Hazeh Rosh Chodeshim, which is the beginning of the process, to the actual hand of God, which took them out of Egypt. With the outstretched hand. Okay. Nimtza Remez, we find this hint. HaKadosh Baruch Hu mareh be'etzba. God shows with his finger et haLevana, okay, which is the Malchut, when she's in the aspect of not receiving the light, aspect of Hester, v'amar lo kazeh, like this. Okay, in other words, zochim al yedei zeh, we merit by this, by taking upon ourselves the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, the kol echad ve'echad mareh be'etzba'o, that eventually through that each single person will be able to show with his finger and say, Hinei Elokeinu zeh, this is our God. So the whole basis of our work needs to be based on faith rather than on proof. All right, so we missed a few minutes. Where were we? Earlier. But I think we've just got time for this lovely piece. It's from Likutei Halachot, which is the work of Rabbi Nosson, of the great student of Rabbi Nachman. And here he brings a very similar discussion as we've just heard in the work of Rabbi Ashlag, okay, on exactly the same idea. This month should be for you the beginning of the month. Now, I find it very helpful when we can see the same ideas in the different languages of the great sages. You see it in Rabbi Nachman, you see it in Rabbi Ashlag, if you see it in, for example, in Tanya. It brings these other perspectives, okay, in and rounds the picture out. So let's just have one quick look at Rabbi Nosson and how he expresses it. And I think he's got an extra lovely little piece to add for us. Like we said, this month is the beginning of the months. Ki Parshat Chodesh, and Kiddush Chodesh, hi mitzvah rishona shenitztavu b'Yisrael be'yetziat Mitzrayim. For this Kiddush of the Chodesh is the first commandment with which the children of Israel were commanded when they came out of Egypt. Ki kar gula shelitzat Mitzrayim haya al yedei bechinat levo alayich ve'erech mitposeset b'damayich. For the aspect of redemption of the coming out of Egypt was through the aspect, and I will pass over you, and I will see you floundering around, drowning in your blood. In other words, they were dirty. Israel was dirty. Like we said, we need to see the dirt, okay, all right, in order to pray. They were at the lowest level of Tum'ah, which was possible to be in, unless they would have, if they got one more further, they would not have been able to get out. And the Holy Blessed One had mercy on them. And he found in them some good points. Even though the strength of the uncleanness of Egypt, the will to receive oneself alone, had really, increased and got taken hold. As the sages said, it was for 4 things that they were redeemed. These are the good points. And this was that God found within good points, even though they were in Egypt. It was through these good points that they were redeemed. And this is what it says, and it says, even in your blood, be alive. Live, even in your blood, be alive. In other words, even though you're in the worst situation, live. And this is exactly what Rav Ashlag says. Even if you see the worst parts of yourself, at that point, join in faith. Be alive. Join with the Hayei HaChayim. Join with the life of all lives. Even with the strength of the blood and it means here the uncleanness, live. But even there, it's possible to find good points. And through this, they were redeemed. In other words, I think this is a request for ourselves also, that even when we're in the lowest possible level, we need to look for our good points. And therefore, the first commandment which Israel were commanded, it was Rosh Chodesh. This is the aspect of the sanctification of the moon, of the month, even for one tiny point alone. Because it's known that when it's Israel, even Israel, which is Yashar El, straight to God, the soul, if we are even in the lowest level, which is when the Shekhinah is not in its fullness, when it's not receiving the light, this is when all the defects and the sins come from. When a person who's connected with his soul awakens, and he finds within himself one tiny point, and through that one point he finds within himself, he does tshuva, he restores the name of God within him. This is what refills brings the light of God back and refills the Shekhinah from its defect. So we have to start from the sanctification of the Chodesh, okay, because that is when we first, when it's all in the dark, but we need to look at that one good point. And Rav Ashlag says that one good point is giving faith. It's giving faith that even this situation is coming from God. Because at the beginning of the month, when we first see the moon to sanctify according to the Beit Din, she's extremely small, extremely tiny, very tiny and thin. She's only like a point. The one good point, the point of that, even in this situation, I can say to God, thank you, it was you who put me here. I can have faith in you. Even I have faith that it was you who brought me here. That when the moon is in the tiniest amount at the end of the month, then all Israel needs to look for it and to ask for it. Until we find one witness who's able to bring one good point from the moon, and that's how they sanctified the moon in the Beit Din. Which was then able to rectify and allow the moon to refill. So it's finding this one good point, okay? then we bring everything into the Kaf Sukkot, which is the beginning of the tikkun of the Shekhinah. Okay. All right, so the idea here is by judging from the side of merit, and that is even in the worst situation, when I see the Pharaoh within me, when I see the enslavement that I am, my wills to receive myself alone. The one good point is the connection in faith with God. Okay, to undertake Malchut Shamayim, the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, even here, and to say, even this situation that you're showing me it also comes from God. Okay. Okay, so this is the main aspect of the redemption from Egypt and the redemption from our present exile, gathering up the scattered aspects of Israel, is gathering up these little points, okay, these good points. Okay, there we go. So I hope that was some illumination on why we have this first mitzvah, Rosh Chodeshim, Dafka, for the coming out of Egypt. All right, any questions?
Dida,
Yeah.
I know we froze. Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Hi, Yedida. This was so beautiful, and you don't even know that you realized you chose Rabbi Nachman's foundational Torah, Reish Pei Beit. When you see Rabbi Nassan was teaching here, he's basing it on Rabbi Nachman's famous Torah. For anybody who does not know that much about Rabbi Nachman, if you learn Torah 272, that is the Nekudat Tovah, that's the foundation of Breslov. It's the entire foundation. In fact, in Breslov, there's a whole organization called Nekudat Tovah.
Wow.
And it's all this Torah from Rabbi Nassan, which fits so beautifully with Ashlag. Is, if you look where at the end in those brackets, it says Likutei Moran Reish Pei Bet. So if you go into Likutei Moran, when I come to Tzfat, we'll learn it. This is Breslov 101. Yasher Koach. This is exactly well. I'm mamish. This was exactly what I needed to hear from Ashlag, and you brought the worlds together, Dida. Kol hakavod, mamash. So beautiful.
Well, it wasn't me. I mean, I was just asking the question. I mean, it's just the question was, it was like, and I just started to research it. Why is this two things connected?
And you can go and look in the Kutei Tefillot from Rabbi Nassan, and you'll see the tefillah for Rosh Chodesh is precisely on this idea of Milui Halavana.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and the Tshuva and all of it. Thank you so much. See you this week. Coming up is Hashem. Okay. Wonderful. I'm going to teach now. All the best. Thank you. Nice to be there. Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom to everybody.
Shabbat Shalom. Great. Wonderful. That was a lovely addition. Okay. Anybody else want to say something or ask a question?
No, thank you.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, very good. Okay, so Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And I'm sorry about the break in transmission in the middle, but all being well, it should be back. We should be back with a regular computer by next week. Okay.
Thank you.
Right, okay. Bye then.
Thank you.
Bye.